Hey, how you doing? We're going to do another video. We did one last year, and thank you all for watching. We got so lucky with that video. It wasn't censored, and it was the 7th anniversary of the meltdown of multiple reactors in Japan at Fukushima. They didn't really tell you about what happened. They didn't tell you the repercussions. They didn't tell you anything about how they lied to you and how people got sick from it and fallouts and things like that. So we're going to cover that today. This is going to be the 8th year of Fukushima anniversary. The nuclear power plant melted. Plants melted on 3/11/11. So let me go to my slideshow here and let's start talking about it. By the way, I'd appreciate if you were to share this, like it. I'm going to tell you some crazy information. It's going to be a bit disturbing. A lot of this, you're going to hear a lot of new information you've never been told before. And the reason I'm asking for you to share it is because it's going to be probably censored, because they don't want you to know about this stuff. They don't want you to know. So basically, I told you in 3/11/11 we had the accident. A lot of people were poisoned. They poisoned the land. They poisoned the ocean. Millions of dead fish and animals and birds and sea creatures. And it was probably one of Earth's biggest secrets and largest exposures. Basically, some of my slides have a few errors and dates and spellings and things like that. I kind of put this together today, so I apologize for that. But there was 4 nuclear explosions that occurred at these plants in Fukushima. As a result of this, 8 years later, there's roughly 30 million 1-ton bags of radioactive material littered all over the entire country of Japan. We have an ocean that's completely polluted and radioactive, and half the fish are dead in it. We're going to talk about that. And American people were poisoned and lied to by the EPA and our government, and we're going to cover that. This is the photo of right after helicopter pilots, and they're not around. They're not with us anymore. They quit doing that right away. They had to stop the helicopter pilots because the radiation levels were so high. They quit using water from helicopters, and they couldn't put these things out. And the problem was that they were melting. This is another photo a day after, and they were frantically trying to put this out with particulate, try to slow the dust down, try to put them out. Because what happens in a nuclear reactor is if your pumps and cooling system shuts down, and by the way, these things were located underground, probably not the best place to put it, the pumps had failed, and then they became hot and started melting, and the cores melted into the ground. So they were trying to do all this dust inhibitors, they were trying to put it out, trying to stop the cloud, trying to stop the radiation from escaping. And today we have a result here of 30 million bags. So let's look at this here for a second. These are the reactors, okay, and they built this thing into a mountain. Okay, they cut the mountain out. Now, what's in a mountain? Water. So now these reactors are melting into the ground. Okay, they're melting into the ground, and this millions and millions and millions of gallons of water are getting radioactive, going into the ocean, causing all types of death. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you some really disturbing pictures. Not only that, do you see this wall here? This wall is only 19 feet tall. And, for the last 70 years, this coastline had at least 8 tidal waves that were in excess of 40 feet. So it wasn't rocket science that these waves go taller than the design. So who would build a 19-foot wall and put pumps into the ground and cut out a mountain and put nuclear reactors there? I mean, it was complete nuts. It was crazy. And these were General Electric units, okay? By the way, we're going to talk about all the ones in America, too. We got 99 nuclear power plants, all of which are old, are dying, are held together with super glue, and they've extended their lifespans. Here's right after there was a plume, and you could see this plume of smoke, and you'll see a bunch of sailors how they were exposed to this. And this plume was a low radiation, a low temperature. See, what happens is when you have an initial explosion or a meltdown, you're going to have low temperatures. And so the source, which is your uranium-234, it's not going to release. What will happen is you'll get isotopes of it. And they basically release at lower temperatures. So, for example, 671 degrees would be for cesium. So if you think about it, the first initial cloud, which is a huge cloud, contained cesium and iodine. And these were isotopes with relatively lower half-lives. Uranium, and plutonium, which are used in nuclear power plants, have half-lives of almost 4 billion years, okay? And then they have, they break down to radium at 20,000 years. So these are isotopes that occur from an explosion. So they are like a fingerprint. So imagine this cloud of cesium and other isotopes floating across the ocean. Okay, and these are alphas and betas. These things don't go through your body, but you ingest them. They go through your mouth. They come in our food, and they have relatively low half-lives. So we're going to talk about that here really soon. This is an individual, Dana Dunford. He is on every night talking about Fukushima. He is hated by all the governments. He has been censored by pretty much most of the media. They have all types of gag orders on this guy, and it's very hard to find him. He talks about this every night. He's probably the only nuclear proctologist in the world. The universities don't even have courses on this. The universities aren't testing any types of radiation or radioactivity in dead fish and fauna. They're not checking the Pacific Ocean. This is the only guy doing it, okay? He's being censored because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know what's going on. So here's another map, and you can see here where Japan, everybody in the whole world knew this happened. They all picked up, except in America, they said, hey, be happy. Be happy. Everything is okay. Everything is okay. And I'm going to tell you, it's not okay. What happened is the EPA lied to you. The Japanese, they lied to you. The U.S. government lied to you. The White House staff and hundreds of CEOs all left for the South America. They left for the Southern Hemisphere. And they knew. They knew. I'm going to show you how they knew all about this in a couple minutes here. They knew about this, and they left because they didn't want to be exposed to the fallout that was about to hit America. And the accident occurred. The nuclear reactors started melting down on 3/11/11, and the plume hit America on 3/15. Okay, and so the entire White House, and you could actually check the plane tickets. You can check, the seminars they went down for it, and they all left on the 15th, right when it hit America. They all left, and they knew. You know why they knew? Because they had a battleship, not a battleship, but they had an aircraft carrier that knew all about this 4 days before. They all packed up and left, including the dog and the CEOs of GE. By the way, these were GE reactors that melted. There's a ton of GE reactors in America. We have 99 total reactors, okay, and they are all outdated. And by the way, they've been outdated. They're supposed to shut them all down. Nope, they just extended them all. A lot of them are held together, and I'm going to talk about a few of them in a minute. Right now, we have a $1 billion lawsuit because sailors are suing Japan. 70,000 people who live in Japan are suing Japan. And so there's a lot of plaintiffs. There was a ship that was out that was going to go help for humanitarian reasons. It was called the Ronald Reagan. And this ship was full of sailors, and they're heading out to go help the people of Fukushima that were stranded. And, they didn't expect this plume. And while they were out there, right after the plume hit them, and when the plume hit them, they all got sick. They started getting sick. They ran to the lower decks. They started closing the doors and getting wet towels so the plume couldn't get in there. The entire ship started heading out at high speeds, as fast as they could get out of there, but they were exposed for 5 hours. And then they all had all types of problems. Okay, they had all types of sicknesses, and now today they are suing the government. There's a lot of sailors that were on this that had infants that were born with genetic conditions. Okay, there was teenagers. There's actually a story on a teenager who was deathly ill that lived in Japan. I believe there's a movie on it, and all the citizens weren't told about this, and they're all starting to get sick. They're all starting to get sick. And what was amazing was that they knew about this on the 15th. Before the 15th, America knew about it. Our government knew about it because their government was out in the water getting radiated. And what did they do? They didn't tell us anything. They didn't tell us. They didn't tell us anything on the news. They said, "Don't worry about it." But then they got their little plane tickets and flew down to the southern hemisphere. In the meantime, Russia picked up on the radiation. You know, Lithuania picked up on the radiation. France picked up on the radiation. Everybody. In America, the EPA monitors, I'm going to talk about them in a few minutes, they were kind of turned off. So this individual, the nuclear proctologist, goes by a YouTube channel, A Beautiful Girl by Dana. He is the only person that goes out to the Pacific Ocean for months at a time by himself. And he counts the fish, and he counts the birds, and he counts the starfish. And he's come up to where there was 8,000 species living on the coast of Canada and America, and now it's down to 1,000. You know, he talks about all the dead sea lions and all the dead starfish and all the bird die-offs, and they don't tell you about those on our news today. They don't tell you they don't know why they died. You know, they show you a polar bear and tell you it's a global warming, but they're not telling you that polar bear's got leukemia. They're not telling you he's emaciated. They're not telling you those polar bears don't have any food because the fish can't eat any plankton because that's all dead because it's all radioactive. I mean, they're dumping trillions of gallons of radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean, and that is killing the entire ocean. Okay, you know, so the Europeans detected it, and then Japan. You know what they do? They gotta clean it up. So what do? They get temporary workers, okay, and they gotta hurry up and try to slow down the meltdown. You know, pour water on it. You know, frantically running. You know, to try to stop this thing. You know, so they recruited the homeless. I bet Japan has no homeless problems. You know, they used the homeless to do this. They didn't properly suit them up. They used seniors. They used mentally handicapped. Can you imagine that? Mentally handicapped people cleaning up a major catastrophic nuclear failure, a meltdown, an explosion. You know, I mean, it's insane. Now, today is a different story. You know, they learned, you know, and so today they are cleaning it up. And the only problem with today is that it's so hot there that, you know, from the meltdown and the water and the pumps, that they have to use air-conditioned suits with fans, you know, with ice packs, you know, to keep them. And then not only that, they got dosimeters, and also, you know, they burn them out quick. So, you know, they have to have a lot of people. 100,000 people cleaning it up. Well, that's because these guys burn out, or women burn out. Within a week, they get their maximum permissible allowable exposure rates, and they might have to wait a month or 2 months. So they are being careful at this point. And you know, it's crazy is that the people are very proud in Japan. So if they're sick or they're puking or they get radiation sickness, they're not going to tell anybody. They're afraid. I'm not sure why they're afraid, but maybe they're afraid for their jobs. You know, they're not allowed to talk about it to their families. This is like not in the papers over there. I mean, you can't talk about this stuff. And so they just work. They work these people to death. What's amazing now is they're finally covering up one of the units with a cover to keep the emissions from leaving. Well, about the last 7 years, you know, they can't live in the houses in the towns because they all evacuated. They're all radioactive. They did clean up a lot of the soil and, of course, put it in 30 million bags, which are at 100 different sites littered and stored all over Japan next to farmlands where they grow food. You know, so they brought in these temporary housing units, and remember the ones we had during Katrina. You know, they outgassed, you know, formaldehydes, so they're living in these little confined spaces. They can't live in the houses, and they're probably, you know, getting gassed by formaldehyde in these things. So now they finally get the machine, the big machine that's going to clean up the radioactive spent rods that are stored there. What about the last 7 years? Unbelievable. So this machine is now there. It just got there a year ago, and they're cleaning up what's left. Now, a lot of those rods are gone. They blew up, and so who knows? That's the biggest kept secret, because some of these things blew up and went miles and miles away, and they may be in these bags too. And this would have been uranium, not cesium, not iodine. It would have been uranium, which has a half-life of 4 billion years. Right after that, they had a lot of produce, and they urged the people to eat the food because nobody else is going to want that food. So they ate the food. Today, it's a little bit different. They do have different levels of radiation, and for example, in America, our levels are extremely high. For example, anything with cesium would be 1,200 becquerels per kilogram. Well, in Japan, it's only 100. So let's say they produce rice that's 800. They're not eating it today. No, not eating it. They're going to send it to us, and we're going to eat it. We're not going to test it because we don't do that, and we're going to probably relabel it once it gets to California. We might even call it organic from California. So you don't even know what you get from California. Everything comes to California. So you might want to find out where your food's coming from. I mean, you want to be careful where the food's coming from. See here's a picture where you see the bags, the 30 million bags being stored. And what are they doing? They're farming food. And these are bags, they're plastic. You know what happens to plastic bags after a few years in the sun? They're like roofs, they leak. I mean, everybody's roof leak, right? Of course they leak, because that's what roofs do. Well, bags leak. There's two types of bags. Bags that leak and bags that are gonna leak. And guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna leak radiation all over that country. They're gonna leak it into the streams. They're gonna leak it into farmlands. They're gonna eat it, okay? They're gonna put it on their food. A lot of countries south, like for example, South Korea, Rocket Man. We're making fun of Rocket Man, but he's not that stupid. He's not eating that food from Japan. He's not going to poison his people. The Chinese banned it too. So, Japan's having a hard time with this food. This is what it looked like right after. This is probably a helicopter pilot that's not with us anymore. And they're piloting these things. And you know what? There's going to be bags near the Olympic Village. Okay, so, Tokyo is like the neighbor to Fukushima. Okay, they do have radiation there. Okay, so if you're going there, you might want to bring a couple masks. You might even want to bring this. Okay, a Geiger counter. And we're getting to the point now. And after I show you some disturbing information here momentarily, you may want to run out and get yourself a Geiger counter. There's different types of Geiger counters. This one might be a little bit expensive. They'll measure the air, so you can go outside and check the air if it's a rainy day. Sometimes the radiation levels are high. Maybe you stay inside, But I'll provide a link below where if you wanted to check into this or purchase it, I do have a link. Check out my link on this particular gauge. I have other gauges. Additionally, just so you know, we're going to talk about a few ways that our EPA and government lied to us. And a great book, a really thin book, very quick to read, is this book here. It's going to tell you about the EPA, how the EPA lied. There's other books, if you want to learn a little bit about radiation, how it's really not good. There's all types of books you could read. This book is kind of nice. I'll provide links for this one too. And this one here actually shows you, you got to think about this, the Nevada test sites. Back then, we didn't know. And then we all got sick. The baby boomers got sick, and now they know. But you know what? They knew about this. And when they had a ship out in the Pacific Ocean where the people were getting sick and they knew about the cloud on its way to America, why did they call us and tell us? No, they didn't tell us about that. They didn't want us to know. They were busy looking for Gaddafi. Okay, that was then the news. And then the rest of the CEOs got on airplanes and went on a little vacation down to South America. And the White House went with all their staff and even took the dog. Well, we got rained on with cesium and got rained on with alpha particles that have half-lives of like 30 days. So you also see these types of photos. They'll show you these photos here. where they're showing you everything's hunky-dory. They're like, oh, looky, everything is happy. Everything is happy. But you know what? It's not, because this is what it really looks like. Okay, I mean, these things are melting in the ground. It's China syndrome, man. You've got radiation and uranium leaking into the ground. So if you'd like to watch this on a daily basis every night, you can check out this guy Dana Dunford. He has a nice show every night, and he's very censored. He's hated by all types of all the governments, and the universities don't like him. Why aren't the universities testing the water? Why aren't the universities out there? Why aren't they out there counting the fish? They don't want to count the fish because they'll have to tell you the truth. They're going to have to tell you what happened to us. I'm going to show you this in a second. And so till today, you know, they still don't test for the fish for radiation. Okay, they don't label them properly. They don't test for the water in the Pacific Ocean, the radiation levels. Okay, and then when the animals die, when you got 10,000 dead sea lions, they're not doing autopsies on them to see if they're emaciated, if they starved to death, if they've got leukemia, or if they died from radiation poisoning. Okay, and so you know, you might want to check out some Geiger counters. I'll put some links below. And this is the Fukushima clown. Okay. And this was provided by Organic Slant. You might want to check out Organic Slant too. This is another great YouTube presenter on this horrible, horrible thing that's happened to our world, Fukushima. So check out Organic Slant, you know, on YouTube, and watch some of those videos. You're going to learn a lot of stuff. The 99 reactors are all outdated, okay, in America. And like I said, a lot of GEs. And now they're finding out they got problems with these things, you know, and a lot of them have releases. For example, Chicago. Everyone thinks everything's great in Chicago. They've had 35 leaks, radiation leaks, 35,000 gallons of radioactive waste, 500,000 gallons of radioactive waste in the sewers, okay? You know, they're not telling. 5 out of 6 of the plants are leaking. And you know how many people live in Chicago? They're not telling you about this stuff. And it's in the water. A lot of the wells are contaminated, okay? Private wells. They're saying that roughly 75% of our nuclear reactors all have had some type of release. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, in New York, the river had radiation killing the fish. In Miami, it's in the aquifers. You know, David Bessie in Cleveland's held together by super glue. I mean, I can go right down the line. It's amazing, and they don't tell you about this. And sometimes they shut off the radiation monitors when this happens, so there's no record of it, or you can't find the data. They're really good at hiding data. Another thing America did is after 3 Mile Island, they increased the radiation levels, okay, so they won't have to do as much cleanup. Okay, they increased it in the soil. I mean, at one time it was 1 in 10,000 people could get cancer from this. Now it's 1 in 23. That's how much they rise it to, a factor of 350. The food levels are astronomical. They're super high. Okay, 1,200 becquerels for food cesium. Okay, I mean, and there's different levels for iodine and strontium and plutonium. I mean, but Japan got lower levels. Why do we have high levels? I mean, they raised those levels. You know, maybe some of those emails had a lot to do with increasing the levels of radiation in our food. Remember those emails that disappeared? Probably got nothing to do with Russia. It's probably this stuff. This is real stuff. This is real stuff, okay? Though I would want those to disappear too if they were changing it on us and not telling us about it. And what you'll see on the news is these scams. They'll show you these hoax maps and these scam maps. Oh, don't believe in the Fukushima scam. And then you got all these shills and these trolls they'll be on these sites. Oh, nobody ever died. Nobody ever died. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? 2,000 people died from the plume. Sailors died. American sailors died. Okay, a lot of people died. So don't listen to these idiots, and some of them don't even have high school degrees. Not that I'm saying that's important, but they're not scientists. They are either paid or just ignorant. Don't listen to them. This is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. I mean, and your news isn't going to tell you either. For example, right now, tomorrow is going to be the 8th anniversary of the biggest event that's ever happened. This was more radiation exposure than 100 times all of them put together. You know, all of them: Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, the 200 explosions, atmospheric explosions that Kennedy stopped. You know, over the United States, this is 100 times worse. 100 times worse. So, this is how the EPA scammed us. Okay, I finally got to it. And we have these radiation monitors 120 places in America. They're 40,000 miles apart from each other. I mean, well, 40,000 square miles. So we don't really have enough of these at all, okay? They must not really care about us by not having these things all over compared to Japan. It's got one every like mile, okay? Every other country's got these things everywhere except for us. So if you got a radiation leak on one side of Lake Erie, the people on the other side aren't going to know about it, okay? So it's a pretty serious problem. The other problem with these units is that they require filters for alpha and beta. And alpha and beta are the particles that were in that plume. Remember that low temperature plume that came over America that our government didn't tell us about, that the White House took off from the CEOs all left for? That plume had cesium, and that was a 30-day half-life. And in 30 days, it's half. So after 9 months, it's gone. So they had these filters, and they took the filters and they put them in a lab. Guess how long they left them in the lab before they tested them? Yep, 2012. They waited a year. So once they took all these filters to test for the alpha and beta particles, they waited a year. And then he says, oh, guess what? There's nothing on them. Everything is good. That's because it's gone. You see, when this stuff flew over and ended up in your gardens and on your cars and on the sidewalks where your dogs walk, okay, and on your lettuce and on your cherries and on all the produce that you ate this stuff, and it went in your stomach and it went into your body, and it's in there, and it's damaged your body. I mean, the thyroid problems we have in America has skyrocketed since this. Skyrocketed. The people, especially the people on the West Coast, skyrocketed. The children in Japan, 30% of the children within this area have thyroid issues. They have cysts, they have cancer. It's amazing what's going on with this. There's so many sick people from this, and we ate this stuff. We ate it all day long. They never told us, and now it's gone. It's gone. It's off. It's gone. Okay, but not the damage. The damage isn't gone. Our bodies have been damaged from this. And while this is going on, they're talking about Gaddafi, just like today. What are they talking about today in the news for the last 3 days? It's about Jeopardy, a game show host. Oh, the game show host is sick. Let's all watch Jeopardy. Let's watch Jeopardy because that's what we're going to do today for the next 2 months. No, what about the other 30,000 people that got cancer from this event? What about all the people that got cancer from fish? What about all the people that died from cancer caused by this radioactive meltdown, which, by the way, is occurring right now as we speak? That's not going to make the news. No. Let's watch Jeopardy. We're going to watch Jeopardy because this is what they tell you. Folks, your news is owned by 6 or 5 corporations. They read the same teleprompter. It's all about a narrative. It's about their agenda. Okay, they're just going to normalize things. They want to desensitize you. Gaddafi, let's go get Gaddafi. This is what was in the news while you were getting rained on by cesium and iodine. Now look at this. All these, the dead, 10,000 dead sea lions. Did you read about that? Oh, I'm sure it was on page 10. Okay, now look at this. These flowers here. And let me see if I can switch my camera to my movie. And I'm going to show you these flowers I have right here. Okay, check these out. These flowers are mutations. They're conjoined flowers. And this is the result of radiation. Okay, the DNA is getting screwed up. Okay, and if you look at these things, they don't grow these things like this. Okay, they are conjoined. Okay, let me show you another one here. They're Siamese flowers. Look at this one. Look at this. This is not normal, and these were all over now. So they've like damaged these flowers. the DNA has been damaged, and I don't know if you noticed it, but a lot of the animals, like I've never seen so many. Here's another flower, okay, and these are bought at the grocery store, okay. This thing here, you can see here is like he's got his head is double the size, and this is from radiation. And I remember, I'm gonna go back here. I remember on the summer of 2011, the treetops. Do you remember the treetops? The treetops. The treetops are all dying. Okay, and this was on the freeways, in the forest. Nobody talked about the treetops and the leaves. Okay, they said they were locusts. It was from the fallout. Okay, and here's a few more pictures. If you go to Organic Slant, they have videos on these in other parts of the country, and they'll show you all the mutations. It's amazing what's happening to the mutations of our plants. The trees are dying. And look at here's a tree top that's dying from radiation, and look at the tree next to it. Is this the tree you guys want? The steel tree with the painted apples? Get used to it, man. This is what you're gonna have pretty soon. Okay. Another thing we're not getting anymore: bugs. Last year, the bug population has significantly decreased. It's horrible. The bugs are dying. This year, there's going to be 40% less bugs. We need bugs. Bugs make this planet. I mean, the birds eat bugs. The bats eat bugs. Okay, it's destroying the world here. The starfish, whales, and birds are gone, and the species counts are significantly diminished. The whales are dying. You don't hear about the whales. They never tell you about them. The whales died. They beached themselves. They don't do autopsies on these things. They have leukemia, man. These whales are poisoned, or they can't eat. When you're radiation poisoned, you can't eat. Okay, it's not that there isn't food. There, a lot of places there isn't food, but they can't eat when you have radiation poisoning. Okay, very sad. Dana also has a lot of photos on his website that show you what the fauna and what the starfish and what the coastline used to look like, and now what it looks like today. It's like bare. The Japanese keep cleaning up for more bags and more bags and more bags. I mean, look at this. They put these bags near the rivers. They put these bags near the ocean. They pile them up, just piling them up all over. They'll be near the Olympics too when you guys go down there to watch. And they're near the farmlands, and they're farming food, and they test the food, and if it's more than 100, they send it to us. They send it to California. They'll relabel it. They'll probably call it organic. All these isotopes are in the food, and these are the sites in America that have the metering where you measure for radiation. And like I said earlier, they did not properly test the alphas and betas. They quit testing the milk. They were supposed to test the milk, and after the first year, they quit testing the milk. You know why? Because they knew if they tested the milk in 2011, that would tell you that it's in the cheese, it's in the ice cream, it's in your food. No, they didn't test the milk. They did it in Hawaii, really far away, and they found tons of radiation in the milk in Hawaii, and they did test in Alaska, but they didn't test the cows in America. No. Your cheese was radioactive, man. Your ice cream we were eating was radioactive. And now what they're trying to do, they're trying to get the people to move back to the homes that are still radioactive. So it looks like when it's Olympic time, hey, all the people move back home. Everything is hunky-dory. Everything is beautiful. In the meantime, the thyroid cancers are astronomically increasing. People are getting sick. They're getting sick. And this is just one slide that shows you that they knew about this back in the 60s and 50s. These are hundreds of atomic explosions, all the fallout in America that Kennedy stopped in 1963. We all got sick. All the baby boomers got sick. They knew about this. So they knew about this in the past. They knew about this. They knew about this when the ship, the Ronald Reagan was sitting out there. They knew about this 5 days before. They could have called us and says, hey, Americans, we have a little problem. A little cloud is going to come over America and rain. And it's not going to be a good rain. So we recommend you stay in the house. We recommend you wash all your food. We recommend maybe cover your food. We recommend maybe don't eat your garden food for the summer of 2011. No, you know what they did? They got on airplanes and took their pets and went over to South America. This is your government. This is your EPA. Folks, do not trust the news. They're owned by corporations. They have an agenda. They have a narrative. And you know what? They lie. They all lie. They all lie. Hey, thanks for coming on. Please rate. Please subscribe. I'll leave some links below. And you might have to get yourself a Geiger counter someday.